back at our series on mobile app redesign for developers with our special guest, Brandon Minnick.
Hey, everybody.
We're we are gonna continue where we left off on the last session, which we were talking about the star tracker, and we were playing around and implementing it in the GitTrends code. And we're also gonna be completing the theory part of this series, which we have the two last topics remaining, which are talking about onboarding and empty states and how can we integrate it in our app and what resources we can use to like get inspiration to make empty states and design it in Adobe XD. So before we get started, let's say hi to some of the folks in the chat. I see Samir there. Hey, Samir. He says, "What's up? I came to see my brother." Yeah, dude, we need to meet up again. When we were in Houston, that was such a great time. Remember, Brandon? It was it was really something. We need to do another event, but how it maybe next year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe next
I know,
year,
man.
like summer
Pandemics
next
suck.
year.
I'm
I'm tired of
stop pandemics. This is.
it.
I'm good. I don't need another pandemic in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, in DR, eventually, like now people are saying like, oh no, yep, I'm over pandemic. Everybody's going out. They're like saying like, no, we're tired. It's like they decided it's over.
I'm not
Yeah.
that far over it. Like I'm over it, but I understand it's
Yeah,
still a
yeah.
thing. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I have a bunch of friends. 'Cause I used to live in. Well, I grew up and lived in Florida for 20 plus years, and yeah, it's almost like the virus doesn't exist in Florida. People are just going to
Yeah.
bars, going to restaurants, doing whatever they want. I'm like, should you
Yeah.
guys be quarantining like the rest of us? But
I'm afraid to go out. Like just going to public or something because everybody here is like nothing is happening. Like they are so free here. I'm like, okay.
yeah, but at the same time, I saw just the other day, Florida's got the highest COVID rates per capita of any state. So
Yeah,
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 I guess you get your freedom, but you also have a higher chance of getting the virus. And
exactly. So that's
I don't want
why,
to get the virus.
yeah, I'm living here, but literally I have not gone out since like January from my house. I only go out to like get really essential stuff.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
man. I hear that. And
So before getting started today, I would like you because we were talking before going live, and we were actually going over some issues that had come up in the pre-release and summary 5, and Brandon actually caught some of those issues, and it's good. I think it's gonna be good for you guys to also keep track on them. Go and vote for the so the team. Works on them. They're gonna work on them because they're marked as high priority. But yeah, Brandon, can you like walk us through what you found and
yeah, so let's bring up my screen again, and we'll actually show them off. Let me know uh, when everybody can see my screen, Luis, and we'll dive into it.
yep, let me put that right here. And I think yeah, they should be able to see it now.
Cool. So, oh no, come back. There we go.
Inception.
I know, right? That's why I was asking you if you
Yeah.
can see it, because I didn't want to go back to that, but I hit the wrong button anyways. So yeah, there's a couple things going on here, and let's open another tab and show off a couple things. So I think the first topic I want to bring up is just a recommendation, a good rule of thumb, a best practice is that anytime the Xamarin Forms team releases a new version, they always put out a pre-release. And my recommendation to everybody is to just take a moment to install that pre-release into your app and just launch the app. See if it runs. If you have a suite of UI tests, which of course we all do because we all write UI tests for all of our apps that have complete code coverage, run the UI tests and just make sure everything works. And this has been my mantra for years now, because I've had, oh gosh, when did I push my first Xamarin Forms app to the App Store? That was 2016. And so because I have apps in the App Store that depend on Xamarin Forms, I selfishly want to make sure that my apps work with the latest Xamarin Forms releases. So what I do, and my recommendation to everybody, is when that new pre-release comes out, just install it. You don't have to commit the code. You don't have to create a new branch, but just see if your app still runs. And if you have that suite of UI tests, run it, because this is where you can find the bugs ahead of time. You want to find these bugs in the pre-release, report them, and that way they'll get fixed before everything goes stable. And so that's kind of the backstory behind what we found here with GitTrends, was that, and actually what we're going to be talking about today in this session is a lot about these empty states. And one of the cool things in collection view in Xamarin Forms is that it has this property called empty view that you can just assign to any Xamarin Forms view. You could put in a grid layout and have a picture with some text like we do in GitTrends. And something I found when I was just testing out Xamarin Forms version 5 pre-1 with GitTrends was when I launched it on iOS, it crashed. And I was like, oh, well, that's not good. And started digging into it, and I found that this is what the empty view looks like on iOS when we run Xamarin Forms version 5 pre-1, and it's blank. So what I found was Xamarin Forms was disposing of this empty view, and the reason GitTrends was crashing is we have bindings for empty views, so we can toggle the text and the images and do cool stuff like that depending on the data that comes back from the APIs. And so the binding was firing, and it was trying to update the image and the text of my empty view, but empty view had already been disposed by the garbage collector. So immediate crash, because what's that, object dispose exception, something like that. And if you're curious, this is what it was supposed to look like in the sample. If you just jump back to version 4.8, the previous stable, or I guess it's still the most recent stable, everything works fine. So yeah, just an FYI, we will be talking about empty view and just empty states in general today. And so I highly encourage everybody to try these out. But as an FYI, I did find this regression. I reported it. The team's on it. They've got it, given it the highest priority. They've marked it as a regression, so they're aware of it. And a less nasty one is, another one we'll see when we jump into the code today, is the indicator view. So indicator view, if you haven't played around with it, is these dots that we see here at the bottom of the page. And this was a Xamarin Forms thing, but also an iOS 14 thing where the indicator view, essentially, it got shrunk down. So you only see one dot or sometimes no dots. And so this is another one that is, again, something to be aware of, and just another reason why we should always try out the latest versions. So in this case, this issue was only opened 16 days ago, and shame on me because I never tried out GitTrends with the Xcode betas before iOS 14 went stable. So this is something that we use the indicator view in the GitTrends app, something I could have caught beforehand and let the Xamarin Forms team know. But I'm only one person, so if all of us kind of follow this best practice of just trying out those preview bits, and again, we don't have to commit the code, we don't have to push preview bits to the app stores, but this is where we're going to find, or hopefully not find any bugs or any regressions, but if we do, then we can report them and make sure that our apps will always work with whatever the latest stable version is and catch these bugs before they come out. So just a couple things to be aware of as we play around with some code today that, the team's working on it. I don't know the exact timeline and dates, but fingers crossed that hopefully these will be fixed before version 5 goes stable so that we can upgrade GitTrends to Xamarin Forms version 5.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm back. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I really really recommend you guys to go into the previews. I was really surprised when Brandon, like a month ago, texted me about the empty view. He was like, "Hey, dude, this just crashed." I was like, "Wait, wasn't this working like literally last week?" And yeah,
Yep.
this can definitely catch you off guard if you're working and you go and do an update. Always make sure to do your proper regression test on your products. Once you do a version change, everybody knows it's risky, like to just update and and not do the proper regression. So yeah, let's get started. I see Ricardo is there in the chat. Welcome, Ricardo. He's always there with us. He's one of the loyals. Nice to see you again here. And today, let me share my screen here. Let me put the Adobe XD side. So our agenda basically for today is going to look the following way. So first, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about onboardings, and then we're going to see a bit of about empty states, some good resources you can use to get inspiration on creating your empty states, and what are some good tips you can follow when you're doing them, just to make the job easier and just a bit more straightforward, right? Because remember, we are developers. Even though we like making it look nice, we can't afford to spend like 3 days or 4 days just making one empty state, right?
Yeah.
So,
And and I'll say these are something that I never knew about till Luis really introduced them to me, and it adds so much polish to your app. And we'll see what they look like in just a minute. But things like when you hit an API, you pull back all the data, and that data is supposed to appear in a list. Well, if there's no data, then the list will be empty. And so the user might think that there's should be data there, and they might just do a pull to refresh again, but it hits the API, data comes back with nothing in it, and the list is just empty. And it's like, oh, well, this app is broken.
yep.
But instead, we can display something. We display some text, an image, and something helpful to the user to say, looks like there's no data yet. Or if you couldn't connect to the API, then we could say, oops, can't connect to the network, or something like that to give the user the feedback. Because otherwise, yeah, they're just going to see, we'll say a quote unquote broken app. And then what do they do next, right? Like they delete the app off their phone, they go to the app store, give you a 1-star review.
Yep.
And all we had to do was add in some text or an image like we're going to see here. So,
Yep.
highly recommend it.
Exactly. So, coming back to our Adobe XD project, let me put the link here for those of you that maybe are new and were not in the previous sessions. So you can download the Adobe XD project. Let's go here. Confirm. So, artwork, GitTrends, and here's the link. Okay, I put the link in the chat that has the Adobe XD project of GitTrends. You can download it and open it in your Adobe XD and follow along. Remember, this project was made while we were learning about design, so you can see it as a timeline and just follow along all the flow of the project, and that's how the flow of our series is going as well. Like talking about colors, talking about dark theme, modifying our logo, and now we're getting to the last part of the series, which is these two roles, and is where we where we worked with onboarding and empty state. So there's two good UX experiences we were missing in GitTrends after we completed our redesign. We had our welcome page, we had our settings, we had everything looking great, but we knew that some of the features we wanted to make sure the user knew how to use off the bat before even getting inside the app, right? So that's what onboardings are good for. Just the main features that make your MVP up, right? Your minimum valuable product. You should have them in your onboarding because that's the features that are gonna really catch your user, right? And you're gonna retain them with this. So the main things we wanted to outline in GitTrends were some of the following. So in our first page in our onboarding, we first wanted to give the user a brief overview of like what are the things he can do to access and what is the type of data he's going to be able to see inside of the app, right? So that's why we right away show him that he's going to be able to connect with his GitHub account. He's going to be able to monitor the repos and see all the stats. And he's also going to be able to see the referring sites that he has for those repositories, right? And once you give that brief introduction, so here you can use the first page basically to outline the main features you're going to talk about in the onboarding, and then each of the following page try to make a more detailed like description of all those bullets you had here. So if you notice, we have connect to GitHub, monitor GitHub repos, views, clones, forks, stars, and issues, and discover referring sites, right? And if we continue seeing the other 3 pages, you'll notice that we're kind of extending on what we were talking here, right? So the next one talks about, okay, we can get stats in our repos, right? So how can we see that stat, those stats, and how can we work with them? So that's why we made the second page. The second page basically teaches the user how to use the charts we have integrated in the app. And it tells them about 2 main things that you will only discover if you tap the chart and like try to zoom in and zoom out. Not a lot of projects that have charts have this feature. So this is a good selling point on the app because you can actually interact and play around with it, right? So that's what we tried to outline here. We said, okay, we also want to have like a little animation. This was one of Brandon's idea. My idea at the first was like, okay, we could put like a screenshot of the chart here, but then that's why it's so important to have like the feedback loop because I was like, yeah, this is perfect. And when I said it, he was like, yeah, dude, it's good. But actually, I think if we had a GIF, it would be like awesome. And that was completely sold. So we went ahead and Brandon created a GIF. What did you use to create the GIF, Brandon?
Ooh, it's actually an MP4 file. And so,
Oh,
yeah, so this is definitely, we'll say, going above and beyond, but really it's over engineering it.
yeah.
But what I did was, or we'll say one of the concerns I had was, what if I want to update that looping GIF or looping video? And well, if we publish the app with just this hard-coded GIF baked into the app as a resource, then we have to essentially push out a new app release every time. And so there's things like that. Like if there's resources that I want to be able to update without having to necessarily push an app update, then I store those in the cloud. And so what I did for this, I actually just took a video of my phone and went to a random chart and just started, I did the tap and drag and zoom to show off these 2 features. And so I just created that video and then I used Azure or uploaded it to Azure Media Services. And what's cool with Azure Media Services is if you have a video uploaded to it, you can play back that video on a device like iOS and Android in our case, or if you're making a website, you can play back in your browser, and it'll automatically adapt to the bitrate. So I have a nice high-res video that lives in Azure Media Services that when the app launches, it connects to, and that's what's actually looping. So it's looping that MP4. And the nice thing is if I wanted to update that video, because I don't know, maybe we updated how charts work, or maybe we changed the color scheme, whatever. I could just change that in the cloud, and so the same link in the app will point to the new video. And at the same time, and the other benefit there is that if you're on a slow cellular data connection, because maybe you're on the bus or something like that, then you'll still see the video. It'll just be a little blurry. Or if you're at home on your nice fast Wi-Fi, then you'll get a nice crisp video, and it's just on loop. And the only downside of doing this was almost at the same time, Xamarin Forms released the what do they call it? Is it media element?
Media element.
Yeah. And there still is. We'll say a problem. It was a problem for me, but Media Element doesn't support Android Exo Player, and Android Exo Player. Well, I understand why it doesn't, because that would add another dependency to Xamarin Forms, and not everybody's going to use Media Element, so why should we force everybody to rely on Exo Player? But if you've never heard of Exo Player, it's kind of like the Ferrari of Android video, as you would call it, a plugin, because even in the Android world, it exists in their version of NuGet packages. But it is what you're supposed to use, and to do that adaptive bitrate streaming, we needed Exo Player. So I had to leverage Martin Van Dyke he does all the bindings for Exo Player. So it's just a NuGet package. We added it into GitTrends, and then I could take advantage of that variable bitrate streaming feature that we get from Azure Media Services. So yeah, crazily over-engineered, but yeah, I just basically took a video of myself using the app demonstrating these features on the chart, and then uploaded that video to the cloud. And when you launch the app, now it just kind of loops the video over and over. And so yeah, the idea is, like Luis is saying, if you never tried, we'll say, touching the chart when you're using the app, you would never know these features existed. And like when you see this as part of the onboarding, then you know that now you can pinch the zoom if you want to get a closer look in your chart, or if you want to see exactly what number value is for a specific data point, you can tap and hold and then drag to see that specific value. And so this allows us to show off these features that we added in the app that you probably would not have discovered on your own accidentally.
Yeah, definitely. And also it gives the feeling to the user that the app actually cares for him on how he's going to use it and making it easier for him. So it's actually a two-sided thing, having the onboarding. It gives the sense to your users of confidence that the project, that the app they're using is actually some time has been invested in whatever is inside of the app is made thinking on them, right? So that's another good way of seeing having your onboarding on your app. And definitely, Brandon says it's over engineering, but remember this project, the whole point of this project is like experimenting with Greenfield and like trying a bunch of different services we have available and seeing how we can do different stuff, right? In this sample project we were doing. So it's actually good that you over-engineer it, because now if someone needs something like this, like having, because that's a bad use case, it's really good to have a video service that you can just upload all your media and just consume it, right? And have that variable bitrate inside of your app. It makes your job so much easier, and also it takes off load from the app, because now that file, that MP4 file, you don't have it bundled inside as well, right? So your APK size as well lowers a ton.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's probably the biggest reason to store your or as many resources as you can in the cloud, because yeah, if you compile them into the app, then that increases your app size. And I mean, app size nowadays, if it's a couple hundred megabytes, most people don't care. Like I look at the popular apps like Facebook and Instagram, I think are 400 or 500 megabytes. And everybody downloads those. Every update is always another 400, 500 megabytes, and nobody cares. And so, yeah, back in the day,
unless it gets to like the gig territory, nobody.
Yeah, but yeah, like GIFs are big, videos are big, and so we can just push those off to the cloud, and then we have a nice. I don't know, how big is GitTrends? 20 megs? Decent size,
like 40 or something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, if you were trying to cram the video in, and you probably would want to have a couple different resolutions for the different screen densities. Yeah, it accelerates pretty quickly.
Yeah, and then you just have this big app, and you're just like, how am I going to reduce this? And then you find that it's because of all the files you have, and that they're a whole like 4 cycles of the sprint just investing time on moving all those files to the cloud. And yeah, so it's good to be proactive and think on these points ahead of time, right? So continuing with our onboarding. Wait, we have a question in the chat from Samir. Where did you get your icons from?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a perfect question. So in our series, we actually had a topic where we talked about iconography and typography and magic numbers. And here, I'll put the link on the chat. You can go there. And here in this blog post, let me share here, I have all the resources I use for icons. So there's a bunch of great sites you can use to get good quality icons for your apps. So there's 2 types of. So I'll answer both, because there's actually 2 types of image resources, right? You have either the icons, which are like what we use throughout the app for like toolbars and our menus and like making action buttons, which are these little icon packs here, right? But we also use images, or we could say infographics, throughout our app to get a point across. And that's, I think, where Samir was referring to, because in our project right now, I was showing you this, right? So if you notice, this is just not one icon. This is actually an infographic, right? We see a girl here receiving a push notification, and then I added the little GitTrends logo inside of here. And the good thing about this infographics is, using the resources I provided that blog, you can get them actually in SVG. So you can actually play around with them and modify them, change their color. And the site we love the most to get our infographics is called OnDraw, which is a collection of illustrations, completely open source, free to use, no attribution needed to be provided in your projects. You can use it commercially and everything, because the designer that actually created this collection licensed it that way. She wanted everybody to be able to use this throughout their projects. And if you eventually want to give credit to her, she will appreciate it, but it's not like she's demanding it. But be good, guys. If you're using something free and you're using something open source, you know that people are putting a lot of effort and love into what they're doing. Look how beautiful, like, all her illustrations are. She has a ton. Literally, you just search anything you need here. Let's say we're looking for a chart, and look up all the great illustrations you can use. And something really cool about this, if you want to change it to a specific color, you just change it here in the picker, and it creates like a palette inside of the infographic to adapt to whatever color you need. So you get really high resolution illustrations for free, and you can use in any type of project. So imagine you're doing presentations for your company, for the product, or you're doing let's say the onboarding or an empty state, and you need a cool graphic to use, this is the place to get it. Let's see. Oh, follow-up question. If you use icons from Icon Finder, Flat Icon, Free Pick, do you have to add credit somewhere? If so, where do you keep it? So yes, if you use Icon Finder, Flat Icon, or Free Pick, and you have the free version of, like if you have an account there, you have the free version, you have to attribute credits to the author that made that specific design that you're using. So this you can put if you have an about us section in your app, or you have like a landing page, you have a section like about us, you can put like the credits there. But most, if you're working in a company, this accounts like, because you can create accounts in all of those sites which are like premium, and you pay like a monthly fee, like around $20 to $30, something like that. And after you have that account, you don't need to attribute to provide the credits in any part in your app, right? So if you're actually working for a company that needs the resources and like want to buy them, right? They can just create an account and just get it without having to put the credit. But I always default to OnDraw, because here you don't even need to worry about creating the account or anything like that. But OnDraw is only for infographics, like stuff like this, right? If you want icon packs, you will need to use Icon Finder, Flat Icon, or Prefect. Or you can just go with the system icons, right? Material Design has a whole library of icons here open you can use that are already integrated, and you can also download here and add them to your iOS project so you can use them across both. I don't know if iOS has an icon pack as well, open source like this. Do you know, Brandon?
I do not know.
Yeah, I have not searched that.
I mean, iOS has icons baked into the operating system. So there's certain ones that
System.
You'll probably recognize them as like the common mail icon and
yeah.
certain things. Yeah, there you go. So those ones are, those are just baked in, and you can reference those anywhere. But it's totally doable in Xamarin Forms, but you have to keep in mind that these are platform specific, so you'll have to make a custom renderer. And why not just bring in your own SVG or use what's that one I use all the time? Oh shoot. The icon Font Awesome.
Oh yeah,
Font Awesome.
Great. Yeah, you can use so then you can use icons as a font family, right? So you don't even need to add the icon resources. Now you can just use a font and use the code. You use the page as a reference. You find your code of the icon, and that's it. You can, since it's a font, you can color it. You can do everything to it, right?
That's right, and we're using it in GitTrends.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely.
Yeah, Font Awesome even has a font pack called Font Awesome Brands, and that's where they include common logos from companies. And so that's one of the ways we're bringing in the GitHub logo, is to use the Font Awesome Brands. Someone was calling it an icon pack, but it's just a font.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we're using in GitTrends for the onboarding. And also a good thing about OnDraw is that they went a step further, and for Adobe XD, they actually have a plugin. So here you can see in Discover Plugins, you search for the OnDraw plugin.
Cool.
Yeah, so you can actually just use this to add your illustrations. You don't even need to go to the page, download it. You can add it directly here and then export it to whatever you need. So I press the plugin here, and I have literally the same features I have on the site here in the plugin. So if I put charts again, I have all the charts. Cool. Yep. I just need to click one. It's gonna put it in my in my clipboard. Then once I have it in my clipboard, I come to somewhere in the project, Command B, and there it is. Now,
Easy.
if I want to change the color as we were doing in the site, as soon as you paste that illustration you just got from the plugin, it creates a color asset here. So that's how you just come here, and now you have the picker available, right? So now you can control, right click and just set the color you want, and that's it. You have great illustrations available. So yeah, all of our illustrations here we got from OnDraw, and how to make it look a bit more towards your brand. Just use your logo and find a good spot in the illustration to put it, and that should be good to go. This is literally what I did here. I got this illustration, I got the GitTrends logo, I drag it and put it in the corner in the envelope, and it looks like the illustration was created for GitTrends.
Love it.
And for this one as well, so the illustration is only the guy with his laptop. I got the GitHub logo in SVG. I put it small and I drag it onto the computer, and now it's a illustration made in relation to GitHub, right? So those little details you can literally make stand out your project and give them like your personal touch, right? And it's literally just getting an SVG and putting it on top of the other one. So it can't get easier than that. And the last two pages we had for our onboarding, we wanted to outline that GitTrends can actually notify you when you have trending repos, which is the whole purpose of the app, right? To know when one of your repos is trending. So we wanted to make sure the user could activate immediately before even going inside the app his notifications, so he could get the full experience. And we also wanted to like give him a little bit feedback on why he would need it, right? Because okay, notifications can be annoying. Yeah. But we made sure to explain like, hey, it's only gonna tell you when it's trending, okay? It's not like we're gonna keep notifying you for everything.
Yeah, because these are huge. Like notifications are big for creating a active user, or I guess retaining a user is probably a better way to put it. And so, things I found is when you send out a notification, it doesn't mean everybody's going to launch your app, but it definitely reminds people that your app exists. So maybe a friend told them to check it out. They said, wow, this is really cool. And then life happened and they forgot about it. But then they get a notification from us that says, hey, Luis, your GitHub repo is trending, meaning a lot of people are viewing the repo this week or starring the repo or whatever the trend might be. And then you see that and you go, oh, cool. And you want to see, you launch the app because you want to see what's going on. You want to get more information about it. And so, yeah, notifications are huge for retaining users. And yeah, like Luis is saying, you want to be careful but not to spam users. Like the notification should be useful. I mean, I've seen some terrible notifications from apps that are just like, haven't seen you in 12 days. It's like, okay, you're getting deleted right now. Like,
yeah, you're like,
there's a reason why I haven't launched your app.
Why are you tracking me?
or on the flip side, there will be notification or apps that notify you too often. And, like every hour they'll send you a notification and it's like, yeah, why don't you batch those together? And we do that too in GitTrends. We'll, if we send you a push notification for a repo that is trending, so let's say one of your GitHub repos was featured on a Twitch stream and now everybody was going to check it out. So now you have 1,000 people visiting the repo and usually only a couple hundred. Then that's when you get this notification to let you know that you got a trending repo. But maybe the next day, 2,000 people visit it. Well, it's technically trending again because you never get 2,000 people in a day. And we're using just literal statistics to calculate whether it's trending or not. Like if you are familiar with statistics and what an outlier is, we're looking for those outliers to see if something has changed today. But what we do in GitTrends is if I send you a notification letting you know a repo is trending, I then essentially pause all notifications for that repo for a couple days. So if it continues trending the next day or even the next hour, I don't keep spamming you with notifications. So something else, just something to keep in mind, like you want to have notifications, but if you just ask the user, like on iOS, there's just a pop-up that appears. It's like, GitTrends would like to enable notifications. And if you show that pop-up before explaining to the user what the notifications are and how they're helpful and how they're beneficial, most times users are gonna be like, no, get out of here. Like I just launched the app. Just let me use the app first. And then maybe I'll decide if I want notifications. So if you explain to the user what it is, they're more likely to enable notifications. If they do enable notifications, they're more likely to come back and continue using your app. And if we get that far and we have a user who's enabled notifications, don't spam them. Give them helpful notifications, because otherwise that'll also lead to churn and users deleting your app and giving you a 1-star review in the App Store. So
yeah,
there's this delicate balance with push notifications.
And it's really important to keep it, because even Android, in our case, Android, if it sees an app sending too many notifications, it's actually going to warn the user about, hey, this app is sending you too much notifications. Do you want to disable the notifications for this application? So you also have to be careful, because even like the operating system, like iOS and Apple and Google are already thinking about this, right? Because it's not good for them and it's not good for you to start getting users annoyed by using the technology, right? So they already are setting in place some stuff to like prevent apps from spamming your users. So you also have to be careful and not falling into that, right?
Yeah, because
it's
ironically,
kind of like,
ironically, users also blame Apple and Google for apps spamming them with notifications, and so Apple and Google also don't want your app to spam their users, because then, and unjustly so, but somebody will be like, well, I just switched to iPhone and now I'm getting all these notifications, I'm going back to Android. And like, that's not really the problem, but yeah, Apple and Google know that does happen, so they're also incentivized to make sure you don't spam users with notifications. So be nice with your notifications. Use them with great responsibility.
Yeah. And lastly, in our onboarding, what we wanted to also lay out was, okay, to use this app, you're going to need to log into your GitHub, right? Because where are we going to get the data from? So the first thing, the last thing we make sure we like guide the user to do is like, hey, you're gonna need to log in. Why not do it right now, right? Before you do the onboarding. So we put a button there, an action button, so he can just click, and right as he clicks it, he's gonna be logged in and taken into the homepage of the app, which will be like the repositories list, right? Because remember, you might question and say, okay, but wait, so what happened to the welcome page, right? Because now I'm saying that as soon as I click this button, he's gonna be taken into the repositories page, right? If you think about it, because this was something we discussed while we were doing it, and it actually makes sense how we did it, because if you think about it, why am I gonna tell you to log into GitHub, and after you log in, I'm gonna take you to this welcome page, which is gonna tell you, welcome to GitTrends, monitor your repos with ease, and connect again to GitHub. It's like breaking the flow, right? So the welcome page is good to have, but remember, this is like the whole purpose of having a welcome page is to welcome the user to the app and get him to sign in, right? So if he's already signed in, you don't need to show this. And also remember that the onboarding, you have two options on how to implement it, right? You either could, each time the user kills the app, so closes the app completely and opens it again, it's going to be a fresh start, right? You can show the onboarding each time he does that, or you can show the onboarding one time, which is going to be the first time he installs the app. And once he is done with that experience, and he either connects with his GitHub account or clicks try demo, you never show the onboarding again because it already met its purpose, right? And then, so it makes sense. The other design decision we made here, which was me and Brandon and me agreed that, okay, let's just show it once, because it doesn't make much sense to keep showing this to the user, because then like daily the user is going to be seeing this, right? And like kind of we go back into the territory of what we were talking with the notifications. Why are you spamming me with this information that I already like saw, right?
Yeah. So specifically, and the way we handled this in GitTrends was, we will always show you this onboarding page until you either tap that connect to GitHub button or you tap that try demo button, because that's the only way you can escape this onboarding flow, this onboarding carousel page.
Yep.
And so if you've tapped one of those buttons, that tells me that you've already gotten past it. And if that's the case, we'll never show it to you again. But we also wanted to keep this welcome page because there's going to be instances where the user will disconnect from GitHub. Because, I mean, heck, you could go to the settings page and click log out. And if you do that and accidentally forget to log back in, well, then we show you the welcome page when you get back to the main page of the app. Or, this GitTrends uses OAuth to connect you to GitHub. And as developers, I mean, we're probably familiar with the OAuth flow and the fact that I can actually log into GitHub and I can see in my settings what apps I've authorized to view my repos, for example. And so I might have forgotten that I authorized GitTrends and I might revoke access. And if that happens, then we'll display this welcome page again. So yeah, both are definitely still critical, but I will say the welcome page, I was just looking up the statistics while you were chatting about it, Luis, and only 20 times in the past 30 days has this welcome page appeared. And that's kind of what we expected, because it should be rare that somebody has to reconnect to GitHub, but it's just another thing you have to account for, right? Like, there's all these edge cases and scenarios, and what you don't want is somebody to accidentally log out or accidentally revoke access, and the next time they launch the app, then the app is broken. And when really it's like, oh no, we just can't connect anymore. And so you still want to have that nice flow, because again, if you don't, they delete the app off their phone and give you a 1-star review because the app is broken. It's like, well, no, you revoke access to GitHub, and but they don't want to hear that. Like, the user is always right.
Yeah, we always have to avoid the 1-star reviews. So,
did I tell you we got our first 1-star review?
When? Wait, recently?
Yeah, recently on Android. And actually, speaking of OAuth, the review just said, looks like a great app, but I don't want to give it write access to my repos. And this is something I don't like either. But the way GitHub's OAuth works, the way OAuth works, it has what are called scopes. And so anytime you use OAuth, you can tell it how much access you want to give or how little access. And GitHub's really bad about their scopes. And so GitHub doesn't have a scope that says read-only access to public repos. And so the only way we can get read-only access to public repos is to use their public repo scope, but it also includes write access. And so, the 1-star review said, I wish I didn't have to give it write access. And as a developer, you can respond to the reviews in the Play Store. And so I did. I was like, hey, I hear you, man. I wish I didn't have to either, but like, here's the link to GitHub, OAuth scopes. If they ever change it, of course, I'm going to narrow it down just to public repos, but there's nothing we can do about it. And by the way, like the app's all open source. So if you think we're doing something funky and if you're concerned about the app overwriting anything, I can assure you we're not. And if you don't believe me, all the code's there. It's open source. And even every time we release a new version of GitTrends, I use the releases tag in GitHub and make sure to upload the same Android app bundle IPA file that are in the App Store. So even if you had just the craziest conspiracy theory where it's open source, but then he's injecting code later, and like, no. And honestly, like, I don't care. That's not the point of the app. The point of the app is just to look at the trends. So yeah, unfortunately, we got our first 1-star review, but
and he didn't update it.
No, really hurt. I was really hoping, because I've had that happen before where somebody's left a 1-star review and then I fixed the bug and then I let them know. It's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for reporting it. It's fixed in the latest version. Can you try it out? They go, great. And then they update it to a 5-star, but no,
I guess he's really hurt. He's really hurt that we didn't contact GitHub and make them change their API, I guess.
I wish I could, man. I mean, like, I work at Microsoft and I can't get GitHub to do this for us. So
yeah, because it's like it's not a. I mean, it's a big product. It's a big product. It's not something like you can just go and say, "Hey, this is not working. Change it by tomorrow." Like they actually have to go through like a whole process to make changes like that, right? So I hope they update soon.
I know it's easy for us to complain about it because we're like, wow, yeah, just give us read-only access. It's easy. Yeah. But
then all the company bureaucracy comes in and
lawyers get involved. Oh man.
Yeah. So we have 6 minutes left before we go back into our live coding and to finish all the theory part of our series. And it's good. It's a good time because empty states is pretty straightforward. I will put in the chat what resources we're using to take inspiration on creating our empty states. So here you can see all the empty states we have defined for GitTrends. We could say 3 main pages that show data to the user that is loading from GitHub, right? So we have the repositories list. We have the referring sites list of our repository. And we also have the trends page, which each of them have certain type of data they're showing, right? So we try to keep it pretty straightforward. Remember, the whole purpose of having an empty state is just telling the user, hey, nothing is broken. It's just that maybe the network is not working fine or we couldn't get the list, right? So don't get panicked. Don't give me that one. Just reload the app. So I found a really cool site that has, because when I first started thinking about empty states, I was like, I had this huge mental block that, oh my God, empty state, like the design for that has to be like super intuitive. It can't annoy the user. Like, how am I going to do this? I have no clue, right? So I started searching, like, let me see if I can find some resources or inspiration on empty states. And I found this really cool site called Empty States. So as soon as I put empty states in Google, that was the first thing I saw. I was like, great, I don't need to keep searching. So let me put it in the chat here so you guys can follow along. This is a really cool site. It has empty states for mobile, desktop, iOS, Android, and you literally can just go through this and see how designers and developers are handling their empty states in different part of their apps, like different. What I really like is that you have like all these different use cases, right? You can see, let's say, for example, here, this is a currency app. They have like a bottom navigation bar, right, with the stats. And here you can see how they have like cards on the top, and then they just put the empty state in the middle, and it literally is just an infographic and some text here. And you also can see, let's say, for example, this looks like a list of assets, right? Like documents. And here you can see like they literally just put a title, bold, they bold the title, and they put like a tip on, because you could have different type of empty states, right? For different purposes. So if you know that in this screen, it's a screen like, let's say, the common the common demo, the to-do list, right? You know, in that screen, the user is the one that provides the data, right? Because he's creating items. If it's empty, well, you can use your empty state to be sort of like an onboarding guy, right? So basically, if it's empty, I'll tell him, hey, you don't have any documents here, but if you use the fab icon to add a new node, you're gonna actually see something in this list. So why not do that, right? And that way you're like guiding the user to start using the app and how to use it, right? So those are the two type of empty states you can have. You can have empty states that are like to trigger an action when the user reads them, or just giving a status update on maybe you were doing a network call and something went wrong. So here you can see this one. This is a good example that we see a lot now in COVID, right? Everybody is using conference conference apps. So this one is literally telling you, okay, you created the meet. Now here's get the link and send it to your friends so you can start chatting. This one is good as well. Let's say you have a list that you're like just reading notification and dismissing them. You can put like an infographic, title, oh, everything is done, and try to make the language you're using in the empty states. It depends what your app, like what is the market of your app, what is your public, right? Your audience. So you can either make it really friendly, like this one, they're just like really informal, like all done, you're all caught up, and then a button that triggers an action like, okay, continue reading some other articles. But if it's something more formal, well, you can use something like this, that it's like a little bit more structured, right? Get a link that you can share, tap new meeting, and like a little bit more structured text, right? So you can go either way. For GitTrends, uh, we didn't put much thought into the text. We went a little bit more formal, right? But if eventually we want to get creative and be like, hey, we didn't find any repos, can you start adding some or something, like being like creative with the phrases? Hey, it's open source. If anyone here is good at writing and has good catchphrases, you can go and do a PR with new phrases for our empty states. We will love it. So yeah, keep it simple. If you go to the site, I think Brando, you notice this as well. Like after you see a few of them, you just notice a pattern, right?
Yeah.
So basically, to make your empty state, all you need is just an infographic, a title, a subtitle, or just a title. Nothing else. If you
Yeah,
see,
and again, like there's two, maybe three reasons I can see for wanting to use these. I mean, the first being just the user doesn't think your app's broken. And
Yep.
you know, like we were saying earlier, if they try or if they make a call to the API, like in our case, let's say they connect to their GitHub account, but they are new to GitHub and don't have any repos. So GitHub, all we do in the app, all GitTrends does is connect to the GitHub API and say, give me all the repos. So if it comes back with 0, then we have nothing to display. But it makes our app look like it's broken if it's just an empty list. Whereas the empty state can say, like, no repos yet, or something encouraging. And so make sure your app doesn't look broken. It can also nudge the user in a direction you want them to go. So, you know, we saw a lot of these, like that one says no favorites yet. And it's kind of like, hey, you should go favorite something.
Yep.
Or maybe you show it after they finish. Like there was that one where it was like, you finished all the articles. Congratulations. So that's almost like a little reward. And you almost want to read all the articles so that you can kind of get that little dopamine hit. It's like, hey, I did it. Good job. And so yeah, it ensures that your app doesn't ever look broken. And it ensures, and it's also is a way that we can kind of nudge users to do whatever it is that the app wants them to do, like tap a new meeting or drag and drop a file, whatever it might be, to help them get started. Because, let's be honest, even though we just spent an hour talking about all the benefits and why we should do onboarding, the onboarding has a skip button, and people are going to tap that skip button and then just blow past it. And then eventually they're going to get to a spot in the app where nothing works, or like it looks broken. And so if you have that little empty state there to kind of give them that extra nudge, it's like, hey, connect to GitHub. And they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, I mean, you should have just seen that in the onboarding, but okay, glad you finally did it. So
yeah, we spent
again
2 weeks making this onboarding for you. You didn't see it, but
they don't care. It's a free app.
Yep. So yeah, that concludes our theory part for our mobile app redesign for developer series. And now we are going to, like, let's say, we can't say it's like the most fun part. Like each thing is important, right? But this is the part that actually entertains us the most, because we're gonna look at the code. We have C# for markup there. We're gonna see Brandon blowing up the code. And we're gonna be debugging. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I was trying. Oh, yeah, we have a comment here.
Yeah, Samir, I updated it to target the latest version of Android.
Wait, could you read out his comment?
Yeah, so Samir mentioned he had forked GitTrends and was trying to build it, but it couldn't find Android version 11. And so that's like the latest, greatest version of Android. Is it Android R now? And so, yeah, just make sure you have that Android 11 SDK installed. I'm also wondering, because Visual Studio should notify you that you're missing the SDK. So I'm kind of surprised that they didn't and just gave you a build error instead, because I've definitely seen it pop up where it's like, this project targets blah, 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 like Android version 9. You don't have that SDK installed. Would you like to download it?
Yep.
But, I just try to stay on the latest, greatest. If
sometimes it just breaks.
I know. It's the fun part of being on the bleeding edge.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to be going back to... Okay, Samir says, yeah, I have SDK 30. Let me quit and restart. Yep,
then
that also fixes it.
Thing I can... the only thing I can think of, Samir, is I pretty much use Visual Studio for Mac exclusively. And so if that's happening on Visual Studio on PC, let me know. And maybe if you're able to find the fix, shoot me a PR, because maybe there's something weird with the CS proj files and how Visual Studio for Mac auto-generated that Android target framework and Visual Studio on the PC can't. So yeah, if you find it and fix it for Visual Studio for PC, awesome. That'd be awesome.
So going back here, Brandon, let's talk to them about what we were doing on the past session and what we're gonna be doing today. I put up
So basically, we've had this feature in the app, well, since day one, where you can see the trends for your views and clones. And that includes total views and unique views, total clones, unique clones. And we'll say the dark mode version we see all the way on the left is showing off that. And we call that the trends page. And what we played around in our last live stream was mocking up a UI to do essentially the same thing, but for stars, because well, I know I'm personally curious, and I'd love to see how my repo trended over time and when people start and unstart it. But along with that, we've also had, this is one of the first feature requests we got when we launched the app. And so, yeah, what we want to do is, well, what we did do last time on the stream was kind of brainstorm how can we fit in this new feature into the existing user experience and design flow of the app, because there's a couple places we could put this chart, but try to figure out like where's the most natural place to put it. And we landed on, let's turn this trends page into just a single chart. Let's turn it into a carousel flow. So you have that little indicator at the bottom letting you know there's 2 pages and you can swipe back and forth between them. And I guess page index 0, or the page on the left on the carousel, that's still going to be the trends page. And then the one on the right will be the stars. And we did that. Yeah, we on the stream, we got the stars chart working. And so what I can do is go ahead and bring up my screen, because I did a little bit extra work offline, and I don't even think Luis has seen this yet. So this will be
it's
new to everybody, unless, I mean, it's all open source, so anybody, I guess, could have been following along with the code.
Let me put your screen up here.
But yeah, let's go ahead and let's build the app, and I'll show you what I got so far, because there's things I like and things I don't like, and this is something that I've been looking forward to for a couple days now, to come back and chat with you, Luis, about getting your thoughts on how we can make it look better. But I guess step 1, we'll wait for this to compile, and maybe I can bring up that page. So
another good point to tell them is that, remember, we also discussed, since it's going to be a carousel, and you have the option in the repository list to like sort your repos. We also said that it will be good if we are sorting the repo list by like by stars, right? And we want to see like the one with the most stars at first. That when we go to the trends page, what we're gonna do with the UX of that is that if we're coming from a list that's sorted by stars, we're gonna first show the stars chart, right? Which makes way more sense than just showing like the other stats first and then having him slide towards it, right?
Yeah, and the thought behind that is, and when the app launches, I'll show you what we're talking about here. But because you can sort that repository list by whatever you want, whether it's stars, issues, forks, views, clones, unique clones. But if you've sorted that list by stars, that tells us that the most important data to you is your stars. So speaking of skipping the onboarding, so this is that sorting feature here where we can choose what we want to sort by. It'll default to views, but yeah, you can sort it by stars. And then now your repo with the most stars bubbles up to the top. And so haven't implemented that part yet, but yeah, the idea is if you sort it by stars, then we'll show you this chart first. So actually, tell you what, let's show some real data. Because
10K. Oh, okay. I was like, damn, 10K stars. We have so many now.
GitTrends is really trending.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. We'll log into my GitHub repo and hopefully not give away any passwords. Let's see.
Oh God. Oh God.
I know, right? We're only live streaming to the internet around the world.
Yeah, we're gonna post this on YouTube as a recording as well. Nothing to be afraid of.
Nah, it's just my GitHub repo. This is only my life's work. All right.
Quickly, write down the code.
So go ahead and log in. This is a fun iOS bug. If you kick off that refresh indicator and then you leave the page and come back, or if you kick it off when you're on a different page, then it freezes. And I've seen this in other apps too, so I know it's an iOS thing, not a GitTrends thing. But yeah, okay, so now let's go into the GitTrends repo. Boom. So this is how the app looks like already. Well, I guess minus this indicator at the bottom. But what I added since the last stream was the stars. And so a couple things I want to chat with you about today, Luis, is, well, A, how can we make this look better? Because obviously there's... the chart looks fine. But,
yeah.
we're missing the data up here. We've talked about adding in some encouraging words and maybe your totals. But one of the things that jumped out to me, and actually speaking of, remember we talked about how we can like zoom in and out, and the zoom's a little weird on the simulator because I can only do it like this, but we can zoom in and out, and then we can also tap and drag to see the exact digits. And something that jumped out to me is when you get past a certain number of stars and like, GitTrends, actually, let's tell you what, let's jump over to, what's the one with the most stars? Oh, it's already sorted by stars. Reverse. There we go. So Xamarin Community Toolkit, right? This doesn't look great. And part of that is, and let's see, do you see a zoom? Do you see my screen zooming in? I don't know if that...
Perfect.
Oh, do you? Cool.
Yep.
So it looks jagged. And this was one of the first things...
That zoom you're using there is the accessibility feature for the Mac, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
That's
actually a cool trick.
That's cool that it shows up. Because sometimes when you're sharing your screen, that doesn't... But,
okay.
But yeah, what I noticed is like, look how jagged this looks. And so I want to get your thoughts about like, what if we smooth this out? I don't know if... Because these charts are just made using Sync Fusion. So shout out to Sync Fusion. Thanks for your awesome charts. Yeah. And so maybe Sync Fusion has a chart.
Remember, we are open for sponsors.
Sponsor us. So maybe Sync Fusion has like a running average we can use. I mean, running averages are just math. We could write the code to calculate that. But because right now, this is just showing a list. And actually, so let me show you what this looks like in the codes. In our trends view model, this is a list of our daily stars model, and that has the total stars on that day, and then obviously the day we're talking about. And so on, what's that, like June 11th, I guess that was 2019. So that's the other thing, like we're not showing the year down here. Maybe we should show the year. Probably should show the year. But yeah, like June 19th, we have the exact number of stars on that date, or June 11th, rather. And so do we really need to be that granular? I don't think so. I mean, I'm more interested just to see like the graph over time. I don't need to necessarily know like on this exact day, I had 202 stars.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was thinking maybe we could smooth this line out, whether we write some code to do the math ourselves, or maybe Sync Fusion has a cool tool we can take advantage of. And the other thing...
This, thinking about, I agree with you, like, it's too much, it's too atomic right now. Like, we don't need to have each single day, like, what was the count for that one? That's why you see the line, like, going, right?
Yeah.
But also this brings into the discussion. Let's say I have a new repo, right? And I only have like 1 to 2 weeks with it. In that case, I would like to see, let's say, my data from these 2 weeks. The first thing I thought, okay, maybe we can do it monthly, right? Each we just put the total for each month and display it. But then if we think about those cases, maybe in those cases, so maybe we might have to do it dynamic, like how are we gonna put the range of the stuff, right? Are we gonna do it weekly? Are we gonna do it monthly? So maybe depending on how big the data is, we can change it between that, right?
Yeah, and you read my mind, man, because that was another thing I want to chat with you about is, um, I was just while you were chatting, I was just looking at like older repos that have like this one has 2 stars,
Yeah.
and so just curious how they look because we got to keep in mind
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have different levels of engagement on their GitHub repos, but
Yeah.
yeah, so like what if because the trends data that we show on this page only goes back 2 weeks. And that's not necessarily design choice by us. That's because GitHub only saves the trends data for 2 weeks. So we don't
Yeah.
have a choice. But what if we did the same date range for the stars? Like, what if that was over
Yeah.
a 2 week period?
And
And
either way, like, can you press the last, let's say one of the last days, right? Yeah. See, like the total you're getting is the aggregate total, right? So
yes,
it makes sense that we can probably just do the 2 weeks as the trend page because, yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can zoom in and show off what that might
But
look like.
but
Just
it
zooming
dep-
so hard with the simulators. Man,
yeah.
you'd think after, what, 10, 15 years of mobile apps being around, we would have had better zooming.
Yeah. And even like better performance from the simulators because like at least for Android simulators, you know how a pain it could be to use like the one that come with the like
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I would expect them to like focus a little bit more on that, but what can you do? Like they're thinking more on feature like user oriented features than developer productivity, I guess.
But, oh, no, I just lost it. There it is. So, yeah, something like this where, like, I try to get this as close to possible with the date range, but this goes October 3rd to today, or October 16th. And if this just matched that same date range by default, cool. Especially, and I don't know if this is possible. We'll have to see what we can do with Sync Fusion. But if this is what we display by default, but all the data is there, so like the user could always
Zoom
come on zoom. Yeah, like the user could always zoom out to be like, oh well, what did it look like back in August? And you could zoom out to
I
see.
like that.
I think that would be pretty cool, and I think that
Yeah.
would still serve the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
because we have to remember stars is not something that is gonna update as easy for your repo, right? So it basically depends on how much people go into the repo if they actually like it, and eventually you start getting stars. But it's not like every repo you do is like you have a frequency of how many stars like you can expect, right? So thinking on that, if we only show 2 weeks, let's say this repo didn't get anything in the last 2 months. So the graph is just literally gonna see like this, see? Like a
Yep,
straight
that's
line.
exactly what I was thinking, man. Let's see. This is. Oh, it's interesting. Oh,
See? So then
yeah,
we're
like it
gonna
just
see
looks
this.
flat. And actually, something else that I just noticed while we're playing around with this is the last day on the chart is the last star. So nobody has starred my dark mode splash screen repo since looks like May 20th. And
Yeah.
so something here where like today's August, August, who knows what today? Today's October 16th.
Oh,
And what this looks like initially to me as the user is that the app messed up and the app is missing data because the app only goes till May 19th. And so what we should probably do is in this list of our daily stars models, we should have a default one, just like we'll get all the data from GitHub, but we'll add in one more star model that is today's date, but with the same, like the current number of stars, so that the chart doesn't look cut off and the app doesn't look broken. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but remember, so for this repo, today's number of stars is going to be the same one you have in May 19th.
Correct.
So you're going to have the flat line again.
Yeah. So, what about... so many things to think of. So what if we do this? So we add in the extra... we'll call it like the default daily stars model to every list that just makes sure that the graph extends out to today. And then we could show, this is where things will get a little complicated. We could have two paths. So like if there's been activity in the last 14 days, then we'll show that 14-day snapshot. But if there hasn't been any star activity, kind of like we were just saying, like we don't want to just show a straight line. We want to show progress.
Something,
like we want to, like we want to encourage people to continue contributing to their open source repos, and it's going to feel a lot better to come in here and see a chart that's trending up and you making progress than just a flat line.
Hopefully, the chart is never going to be trending down.
No, actually, it'll be impossible because the GitHub API only gives us the snapshot of your current stars.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I'm saying. Imagine
it'll never trend down.
Imagine something happened in the community with your repo and no one wants to support it anymore. They start unstarting it. So yeah, hopefully no one gets to that point. And it's always trending up.
So yeah, maybe we have some sort of brains or some sort of check that says, how much activity or how many stars have you gotten in the last 2 weeks? And if there's, I don't know what that number would be. If it's like, let's make sure they got at least 10 stars in the last 2 weeks. If not, we'll go, the chart will go all the way. What am I trying to say? Let's start that over. Is there at least 10 stars in the last 2 weeks? If there is, then we'll only show a 2-week snapshot. But again, hopefully we can do this so the user can then zoom out and see all the activity. But if there hasn't been at least 10 stars in the last 2 weeks, then we'll show the date range of when there has been at least 10 stars. So like in this case, the Stark mode splash screen, I don't even remember how many stars it has in total. Oh, it's got 20. So when you launch this one, we would go back to, I'm zooming the wrong way. Come on. Give me like 20 minutes and I'll have this zoom stuff. Come on.
There you
Something like this. Oh, close enough. We'll pretend that there's 10 data points here. So if you tapped into dark mode splash screen, something that hasn't been starred since back in May, we'll show you the snapshot of the latest, most recent 10 stars. I don't know if those words make sense, but does that make sense, Luis? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you're trying to to identify this, like which portions of the graph have this variation that actually is what we want to show. So you're trying to make like a straightforward way of us like brute forcing identifying this, and we can basically do that, as you say. Just take 10, whichever period has at least 10 stars, right, going up, and it should look like this. Yeah. But you talking about that, I just Googled because I don't remember. I did not remember the term, but I know in statistics there's something which is related to variance, right? And maybe there's some formula we could use and standardize that to something like, okay, if this period has at least 15% of variance, or we should show like this range, right? Like we want a range. Maybe we just need to identify what is like, what variance gives us the shape we want, right? And then just do some calculations around that. I don't know. What does the chat think? Like, do you guys have any ideas as well? Because we're just brainstorming. Like for first
Yeah.
try, I will do it just with the number of stars because this is more straightforward. But if someone has something fresh in their mind related to like some formulas we could use, give us those ideas and we can just like explore that. Oh,
Yeah, you know what? While we're chatting about this, we should also
you just
probably
got
be writing
a
this down.
yeah, you just got a really good comment in the chat.
Ooh,
I'm
what's
gonna
up?
let you read it.
Ah, well, I can't without. I'll have to stop sharing. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'll
Mir.
put it up in the stream. So
I'm curious to see what that fix was.
yeah, we just got a PR in the GitTrends repo from Samir. It's really appreciated. Thank you for being on the stream and also contributing while watching it.
Oh, in-app review for Android too? Oh man,
Oh,
that's a good one. Yeah, Android.
oh, nice. The
So
app,
quick tangent. Because thanks, Samir. Awesome. Um, but
nice.
what's interesting is well, I guess I should back all the way up. Something that all apps should do, but kind of similar to notifications, you have to do this very carefully without getting in the way, otherwise you're going to get some 1-star reviews, is to solicit reviews. So ask users, are you enjoying the app? And ask them to leave a review. And back in the day, you had to do all this manually. And so you had to, most apps would like show some sort of pop-up, but the better apps would show it kind of ingrained in the UI that wasn't in the way, but it would say, like, are you enjoying the app? And if you clicked yes, it'd be like, do you mind leaving us a review? And if you click yes, then it would take you to the App Store and you can leave your 5-star review. Great. But apps basically started spamming that and users got really annoyed. So in iOS, I think it was 12.1, they implemented SK Store Review API that allows the developer just to call this API. And actually, I'm sharing my screen. Let's see if we can get a image of it. There we go. So if you've used an iOS app, you've probably seen this.
Yeah.
And this is basically a way for you to leave the review in the app without having to leave the app, go to the App Store, and come back. And one of the other things with SK Store Review that Apple did was Apple dictates whether or not they show this. So I don't know what Apple's algorithm or methodology is, but I could call SK Store Review 10 times and this little dialogue might only appear once, or it might never appear, because Apple has some sort of calculations they're doing behind the scenes to ensure that users don't get spammed anymore, that the developer just can't continually ask them to leave a review every time they launch the app, essentially. So it's nice because, again, you don't have to kick the user out of your app, send them to the store, and then hope they come back. They rarely do. You can get them to leave a review in the app. And so Android, as Samir pointed out, recently in August came out with this API. And so I hear you, man. That's awesome because I do have a store review flow. I don't know if anybody watching has seen this in the app, but if you've used the app enough, down here in the referring sites page at the bottom, it'll ask you if you're enjoying the app and if you don't mind leaving a review. So again, something that's out of the way. It's not a pop-up that blocks you from using the app. You don't even have to interact with it. You can just close this and be on with your day. But we should always use, those default APIs. So love that feature request. But back to the star tracking. What I wanted to do is...
I see he says, funny that you say that. I was playing around with the app along with you guys, and the app asked me to review it. And that's what gave me the idea.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Hopefully we got 5 stars from you.
Yeah, that reminds me as well. Samir, recently in October 14, he had a talk with the Rochester community, about adding this feature of in-app reviews that was recently added for Android. So as soon as they upload that recording, we'll make sure to share it in the .NET community as well, in the .NET Dominicana community. So you can go and see how this is implemented. Yeah. Oh, and now you can also see it in GitTrends.
Right on. Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to take some notes here, Luis, while we're brainstorming. So we're gonna show 14 days of data, or show the 10 most recent, say, star dates.
Yep.
And we need to ensure the chart. We'll just say extends through current day. And we mentioned something else. Oh, like maybe use. I don't know what else to call off the top of my head. We'll say statistical regression.
Yeah, like variance.
Question mark.
Like,
all right. Variance. Fancy big words. Yeah, like maybe there's an equation we can use to. Or
just
actually, this would
aggregate
probably be 10 most recent. Yeah. So basically, we want to make sure we have a good experience. And something I just thought of, and I would have never thought about this, but we were just talking about empty states. Like, what if your app has
no stars?
Yeah, if you have no stars, like, what's that look like? And
it's okay, guys.
For us,
I have repos with no stars.
Me too. So this is what it looks like with no stars. So we should probably have an empty state.
Oh yeah. So yeah, add that there. Do we have a? Oh, can you reference the? Let me get you the issue in which we have like the summary of the UI UX. It's number 149. So reference it there after that comment. So you know how in the other issue it tells you, hey, this was referenced. Yeah.
That's where we are right now, man.
You were putting it right there. Yeah. Good. I thought you made a new issue just for this one. No, but it's
I'm too lazy for that, man. And so let's see. And then I guess a sub bullet here would be allow user to zoom out to see complete star history. Oh, I remember the other thing we talked about. We'll say use a rolling average to smooth the curve. And we also talked about the year, because when we looked at, just remember what this looks like real quick. When we looked at GitTrends, like this says November 4th, which I assume is not 2020 because November 4th, 2020 hasn't happened yet.
Yep.
But is that 2019? Probably, because I just created this repo in 2019. So we should also include the year in the x-axis. Whew. All right. I think that'll be good. Am I missing anything? Did we say anything else? Or if anybody in the comments remembers us rambling on about all the fun things we want to improve and then forgot, let us know. But I think I got everything. So empty state for 0 stars. Sure, the chart goes through the current day. Like even GitTrends, nobody's started since September 22nd. It's just lonely. And so,
yeah, if you're in the chat and you have not started, help us out.
Help us out with the stream.
I think that's basically everything we talked.
Do a question.
We also said we had to make a bullet to check if Syncfusion has something that can help us out with this. Maybe a feature we have not discovered. Yeah.
Let's say can Syncfusion do this automatically for us?
Yep.
Otherwise, we'll have to do some math.
Yep.
I actually had to do some math just to create this, because when you ask the GitHub API for the start history, they literally just send you a timestamp, and so you can infer that timestamp is when the star happened, and so since they just send me a list of timestamps, I have to do a little for each loop and say, and it's just like total stars plus plus, right? But
Yeah.
we might
Oh,
have
we
to do
have
some math.
another question here. By the way, the app shows 60 views. Does that mean 60 views in the past year or the past month?
Yeah, so assuming we're talking about this number right here, this is the past 2 weeks. And let me show you, tell you before I...
Yeah, because you were saying that for the stats info we're getting, the most that GitHub gives us is the 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, so if you were unfamiliar, there's nothing in this app that you can't find on GitHub. So all we're doing is pulling the data from this Insights tab. You can go at Insights, you can go to Traffic, and if we look at our chart side by side, it's the same thing. So you can see like the little spike in here on October 14th, spike right here, October 14th. And this is actually the whole reason I made this app, because I knew this Insights traffic data existed, but I have, I think, 250 open source repos, and it'd be impossible for me to click through them all every day to see which ones are getting the most activity, because I want to make sure my repos are up to date. So if people are viewing them and leveraging the code inside of them or whatever, I want to make sure that when they go to clone the app or clone the repo, that it works. So yeah, the whole reason that I came up with the idea for this app was so that I could see all this data consolidated in one place, and it could easily see the trends without having to like click 3 layers deep into each repo in the GitHub portal. But with all that being said, yeah, GitHub only saves the latest 2 weeks worth of data. And so this is something that, Luis and I did kick around the idea of, it's like, well, if you've connected GitTrends to your GitHub repo, like we could store some of that past data. We could store it locally. We could store it in the cloud so that you have like a cloud backup of it in case you maybe buy a new iPhone or switch devices. But it's, it's one of those things that is, I don't know. I don't even know if I'd say it's on the to-do list because we're not actively working on it. I don't want to lie to anybody. Yeah. But
there is an issue for it.
I thought we had an issue open for it. Extent, there it is.
Yeah.
So we're not alone in wanting more than 2 weeks worth of data, but the question here is like, what's the best way to do it? And to be frank, the biggest blocker I have personally is that the best way to do it is going to cost money, and this is a free app. So like what I have in mind, what I would like to do is just store that data in the cloud. And once we introduce cloud storage, well, I got to pay for that. And this app is just totally free and open source. So then the next question becomes, well, do we have a premium version of the app? And there's maybe an in-app purchase or subscription. And if you pay $30 a year for a subscription, you get GitTrends Premium, and then you can see that data. And the reason I say the best way to do it is to store it in the cloud is because right now the way notifications work is not great. The way the app actually does notifications is it runs a background task. So when the app is in the background, asleep, whatever, we run a background task that essentially wakes up the app in the background, calls the GitHub APIs to see, get your stats, and then does that statistical analysis on it locally. And if it sees that one of your repos statistically has an outlier, meaning it's trending up, then we'll actually we'll display it's a local notification. It's not actually a push notification. But ironically, what I found when I implemented that is that, well, let me finish that thought first. So all that's happening locally. I would much rather do that in the cloud because A, that's less battery drain for you. And B, iOS and Android are really restrictive about what they allow apps to do in the background. Especially Android. Android implemented Android DOS a couple of versions ago. And DOS is so restrictive about what apps are allowed to do in the background that this background task doesn't run too often. And unless you are launching the app every day, a couple times a day, to kind of let the operating systems know that, hey, this app's important to me, I want to let it run in the background, because iOS and Android have little algorithms on their side that say, if you don't ever use this app, we're never going to let it run in the background. Well, then you'll never get the push notification. So, hey, thanks, Samir. So, yeah, long story short, what I would like to do is offload all of that to the cloud, because then I can have it run once an hour or once a day to pull this data. And I can do all those calculations to see if anything's trending on the server side, which means essentially, less CPU cycles for you, less battery drain for you on your phone. And it resolves this problem that we have right now of having to run background tasks and hoping that iOS and Android don't kill my background tasks before we can give you a push notification.
Yep.
And so that's my dream. But things get weird when you start talking about money. Because, and this is probably more information than anybody needed to know, but yeah, I work for Microsoft, and this is an app that I will say reference a lot, leverage a lot. I show this a lot in talks that I give at conferences. Like, heck, we're hanging out at the .NET Dominicana meetup, and we're talking about this app. And what I don't want to do is to make it look like we're doing all this to get money, right? Because that's not why we made this app. We made this app because it's something we wanted. Like, personally, I wanted to be able to see all these repos and have access and get push notifications. So selfishly, that's why one of the reasons I made this app. But also make it open source so that if anybody is either new to Xamarin or maybe even new to a feature, like how we're using Sync Fusion in the app. Maybe you've never used Sync Fusion before and you see this happen in the app. Well, you can come in and leverage all this code. So I want this to be a learning tool as much as it is a free and open source app that you can download on the App Store. And yeah, when you get money involved, then things just start to get a little fuzzy. And there's probably also legal things. The fact that I'm a Microsoft employee, and I work on this app mostly in nights and weekends. But yeah, if I give a conference talk on behalf of Microsoft and show off code in this app, then I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure there's some sort of gray line there where that's not going to look good. So yeah, man, extended views and clones data beyond 2 weeks. I have it totally architected out in my mind exactly how I want to do it. But then, yeah, the problem comes in that somebody's got to pay for those server costs. That somebody's going to be me. And as much as I love all of you, I don't know if I could afford paying a couple $100 a month in server costs just to give us a couple more weeks of data. So I don't know if there's any kind benefactors out there that want to host it in their Azure instance and don't mind, we'll say, feeding the world more views and clones data. We could totally do that. But I think for now, we'll just kind of keep this on pause. But yeah, if anybody wants to fund this, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I feel personally, I feel skeezy bringing money involved, and I don't want this to look like that we're just doing this to become millionaires. Which I mean, that would be cool if we became millionaires. But this is the learning tool. This is also something that helps me grow as an engineer because I've learned so much creating this. Luis has taught me so much, and we've had so many open source contributors that, things get weird when you introduce money.
Yeah, and it ties back into doing community stuff. Like even when you're managing a community and when you're putting out your content out there, you always have to uh, be really careful with how you're distributing your content, right? And what is the vision you want for it, right? And how you want people to perceive it. So in community related stuff, it's also the same. Like you also have to have in mind that you're doing everything free, so you have to also protect your attendees and the people that are using your products. In this case, GitTrends, or looking at your talk, or you're providing some information that it's completely for them to use, completely free, and that you're not doing it with a second intention behind, right? So as you say, as soon as you start getting involved with money and stuff, it might look, even if it's not, like you could totally be doing it by the kindness of your heart, but it just doesn't look great. It's like two different environments, right? But
Yeah.
there's a workaround. Sponsors.
Sponsors.
That's why we always come back to sponsors. Hey, sponsor us.
I will say part of the irony in all that is because I'm using some serverless Azure functions in the cloud, and like, for example, we were talking about getting the URL for the chart, and I actually host that URL in the cloud. And when the app launches, I don't know if you've ever noticed that little splash screen that appears when you first launch it. It's like loading. And then once it's loaded, so this little bloop animation, that's actually hitting these APIs that I've made in the cloud using Azure Functions. So the ironic thing is I already have a cloud backend for this, but serverless functions are basically free. I use these. If you've never heard of serverless, basically what it means is you have code that runs in the cloud, but it's not running 24/7. It's only running when it's being used. So if nobody's using my app right now, then what Azure does is essentially turn off the API. So the API is still on, it's enabled, but no code's running. So I'm not using any CPU cycles. I'm not using any RAM. And cloud cost is all about paying for what you consume. So you pay for the CPU cycles, you pay for the RAM. So because these spin down to zero, then my monthly bill for these Azure functions is just like a couple pennies. And I am more than happy to donate a couple pennies every month for the community. But yeah, a couple $100 every month?
Yeah. And it grows so much because I don't know, maybe the attendees, if you don't know this, but in Azure, right, if you have an instance running, let's say you have a database, right? You have a server running the database. Even if you pause it, and because you were talking about the Azure functions, right? That when no one is requesting data, none of the resources are being used, right? But actually for storage, which is the other service we will need to use if we want to like start persisting stuff up there, right? Even if you pause the instance, the storage you have available is still being charged. So that's why that amount we need to pay monthly will never like go down like that. And
it'll only go up, and it goes up exponentially because every new user will stack on top, or all that data will just grow and grow and grow. So yeah, that one's tough. But as soon as we get a sponsor to cover the cloud costs, then yes, we can roll out. This is version 2 we're working on to add these new charts, but version 3 we'll roll that out. Oh man, it'll be beautiful.
Yeah. So we have the notes. Let's see. Let me go to that issue here. Yep. We have the notes for the charts.
We got Samir opening up more issues.
Samir is on fire. Indicator view disappeared. What is this
Yes, that's the bug we talked about at the top of the show.
Oh yeah, on the
But
bottom.
I'm glad you opened that issue, because if anybody else hits that as well, then they should be aware of it too. So I'll just copy that link while we're talking about it, because it is we'll call it a known issue with Xamarin Forms and indicator. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So this,
Brandon is doing here right now is actually something I notice a lot in his code, and it's a good practice as well. Each time you find like a non-issue and you did a workaround, he tends to put like comment on top of where he fixed it, right? And he puts the link directly to where he posted the workaround or where the issue he found is, right? Like maybe there's an issue in Xamarin Forms, someone else reported it, he puts the link, and you can just get all the feedback from there. And it's really important to have stuff like that when you're working with open source code, because remember, a lot of people are going to be reading this. You maybe found a bug, but some like I'm not aware of it. You might mention it in a comment, like, "Oh yeah, there's a bug with the indicator." Okay, dude, but specifically, what bug? What was happening? So this gives really good context on that. Yeah.
yeah, I also like to do that anytime I find something in Stack Overflow. Like, let's see if I
Yeah.
Stack Overflow, because let's be honest, we all do it, right? We go on Stack Overflow because we can't figure something out, and then we find an answer and we just kind of copy paste that code. And so anytime I do that, then I'll always make sure to keep that as an attribution as well. Because something I've noticed, and I'm kind of curious if other people hit this, so let me know if it happens to you too, Luis, but if I copy paste code off Stack Overflow and then come back to that same code block a couple weeks, couple months, heck, even a couple days later, I'll kind of recognize that like that doesn't look like code I would write. Like,
Yeah.
what is this code even doing? And so like anytime I'm looking for something like that and I quite literally copy code from Stack Overflow, then yeah, I'll include the link there as well so that I can come back in here and it's like, okay, this is why I had to do it, because on iOS I wanted to increase the UI activity indicator size, and you know, it just kind of helps jog your memory, which
Yeah, it's like there's something we always say, like when you look at your code anywhere, you can recognize you wrote it, right? Because even like stuff is like unique to you. So when you see something that was like as following a different logic, like even the simple thing as declaring a variable, let's say inside the method and keeping everything inside the method instead of having it like everything low, right? You know that something is not right. So yeah, definitely this helps a lot with that. Oh, I see in the chat, Samir says, "Thank you, Brandon, for taking the time to spell my name right."
I saw that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always forget if it's 2 A's or 2 E's.
Yeah.
So double, triple check. It's important stuff. It's always important to get somebody's name right.
Yeah.
It's a life lesson for today. Yeah, I'm just trying to link to this block of code here. Base onboarding content page.
Let's see what else we have here. I
Oh,
see Ricardo was saying he also, when we were talking about like what we were learning on this talk, he also enjoyed learning about how the empty state should work, right? And what tips we were using. And let's see. Oh, I noticed we have 4 minutes left. We're getting better at it, right? Because remember the first few sessions we had, we like go over like 20, 50 minutes. But we're getting better at this live streaming thing. For me, at least, it was the first, like hosting a complete series. I would do like talks and stuff, but never something like continuous like this. So definitely, it's something you learn with practice, and you learn how to manage your time and stuff. But I think we had a good progress today. We got to brainstorm a ton on the star tracking feature. We have Oh, this is what I was looking in the chat. I remember Samir said, where is it? Let me put it up in the stream. This suggestion for the comments you added, Brandon, it's we should probably add an indicator of how much is the time frame that we're displaying on the trends chart. Maybe some label that says 2 weeks of data or something like that.
Ooh, you know what?
So it's a bit like more explicit.
What about on the About page? We haven't even started the About page yet.
Yeah.
But let's just jot that down here. Like maybe include what we call this GitHub's 2-week limit on views, clones, data. Oh, we should definitely include it. That's not a maybe.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a link somewhere, just in case somebody else stumbles upon this and doesn't believe us.
Yeah. They'll be like, no, they were just too lazy to do all the day. Oh, perfect.
What? Wait, what is this? Optionally,
Okay.
in the upper right corner, choose to view data for the last 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year?
This is new, guys. Eh? we
Breaking.
promised. We promised this was not there a few months ago. What is
this? This would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like insights.
Insights.
Oh wait, this is a totally different page. Where is this?
No, it's there
under organizations. Oh wait. Oh, this right here.
Yeah.
Is that still there on? No, it's not there on the traffic page. This is actually a different location.
Yeah.
Profile page under organizations. Click the link. This might just be for paid organizations.
Caught red-handed.
Organization. This is all okay. Yeah, this is all organizations.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes me feel less crazy. Oh.
There it is.
Cool.
Longer than 40 days. 2015.
It's been like this since.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, for 5 years.
Oh my god.
This is cool. This is probably good enough to link.
Yep.
I just want to have something in here to be like, it's cool. Like, we've done our research. We swear we're not we didn't just pick 2 weeks out of thin air. Because I mean, I'm the same way, man. I wish I could get more than 2 weeks. Because what sucks is like, there will be an event, right? Like maybe we, like when we launched version 1.0 to the App Store, and like we made big announcements. I wrote a blog post on it, or even you've been pushing out your blog post series on how you design the app. Like those events cause like nice little spikes in these trends, and yeah, once that window goes past 2 weeks, like they're just gone forever.
Yeah.
And they're like nice little data points in time where it's like, oh yeah, I remember back when we launched version 1, and you can kind of see it spike on the graph. But
Yeah. And you definitely like can even use that data to say, okay, each time I do a blog post or I do like a podcast, this is a reaction I'm getting, and like you could like compare it. But what can we say? This is all we can work with for now.
Yeah, so man, I'm bummed we didn't get to write any code, but we made awesome progress. And what I can do is I can take a stab at it, and we can.
I mean, we type back
show to code.
Yeah, we type back into. Remember, we're engineers. We're not supposed to just be, oh, I want to do this and just throwing the code out there, because we're gonna be having like 3 months of just refactoring what we did. So it's actually, I think it was a good stream, because people also can get the feeling like, we have different levels of professionals watching the stream and following our community events, and they can see what is like our logic into breaking down the problem, brainstorming ideas, you can see like we're trying to do like not do anything in homework, right? Like just put out everything in the live stream so you guys can like get the real time feeling of how everything goes, right? So that's actually
Yeah.
really valuable as well. So I think we did really good progress. And next month, no, I mean next Friday, maybe we could just do straight into code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and it's interesting, man. I've gotten some feedback from, I mentor a couple, say, new developers, so folks that are kind of new in their journey into the tech world, and uh, I've gotten some feedback that they say things like, it's refreshing to see the process because
Yeah.
it's easy to look at like the finished product and just be like, wow, like those people are geniuses, or
Yep.
wow, like they wrote all that code in one night. And it's like, no, like
Yep.
we struggled through this, and not in a bad way. It was definitely enjoyable, but like everything we've talked about in like past design decisions, like was definitely gone through with a fine-tooth comb between me and Luis. And should we do this? What if we do that? Like, what are the repercussions? Like, let's talk about this. And then like when we go to implement it, we're like, is this even possible? I don't know. Like, I don't know if Sync Fusion has a control that will let us be zoomed in by default.
Yeah.
We might have to futz around and try to figure out if it's possible. And
Yeah, and it doesn't matter
it's
like the amount of experience you have. Okay, you
no,
have
it never
10
changes.
years developing. It doesn't like it never changes because you're just creating new ideas, a project that you have never done. So all of those questions are always going to come up. It doesn't matter how many years you have, how many projects you have done, and it's actually refreshing to do it, as you said. Like if I did it, like this is the part I enjoy the most of the projects. There's like, oh my god, okay, we have to do this. How are we gonna handle and like organize this here, right? That's like what makes it interesting for me.
Yeah, it's the problem solving.
Yeah.
That's why I love writing code. Is there's not only can we build anything, because we can write code to literally do anything. The limits are only our creativity and that's our subject matter of the knowledge. Like I don't know anything about AI, so I can't today do anything with AI. But yeah, we can build anything. But at the same time, being able to figure out the how, figure out the why, figure out like look at the different options and weigh everything. Like I love that problem solving. It's like for me, it's the coolest game in the world. Like that's like what video games are, but we get to do it in code and we get to do it for a job, which is
we get paid
really
to
cool,
do that.
so it pays me. Right?
Yep. Definitely entertaining.
Although I will say some days are better than others. Some days you're just like, wow, this sucks.
Some days like, you're just like, okay, I have no clue how to figure this out. But that also gives you a good insight on why is it important to be involved in stuff like this, like joining a community, getting to meet people, creating a network. Because let's say serverless, Azure Functions. I have not used it recently. If I need to use it, I know the first person I'm going to contact is I'll contact. I'll be like, hey, dude, I have to do something with GraphQL, or I have to do something with Azure Functions. Can you help me out? And that way, you have ways to figuring out stuff that you might not have the knowledge right now, but you have someone who you can lean on, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely enjoy our work and how we have communities around what we do, because there's some professions that you're literally you and your books.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
So yeah, I'm looking at the time. It's 8:06. We reduced it to five minutes over, but it's good to do like a little review of what we talked about. I see everybody active still in the chat, giving thumbs up to what we have talked. Thank you everybody for sticking with us through the whole stream, and it's been like 6 Fridays already. You still are loyal there to us. We received some really good things today, like the PR from Samir. We created some great issues. We also brainstormed about what we could do with the start trackers, how we could improve the trends page, maybe add an indicator. So yeah, it was a really productive day. Brandon, always full of knowledge and giving us that good insight in that code of GitTrends and what his thought process on organizing the code. And oh, I see Ricardo says, important we learned about this stream. The sponsors are the solutions to our persistence problem, okay? So if
That's
you're
right.
out there and you're looking to sponsor a community or open source project, make sure to reach out to Brandon or to the .NET community and just sponsor us with whatever you have. Like if you have, let's say, licenses, we could give away to the community. That's always what we see. We have a ton of eager professionals to try out tools and improve the way their productivity and just learn, right? So yeah, we welcome everyone here. And I don't know if you have anything coming up, Brandon, that you would like to shout out.
Ooh, yeah. There's a big Xamarin event next week. Um, it's a little tough for me because I live in California, but actually let me grab a link because this is called DevReach, and let me see if I can get the specific Xamarin day. But basically, we have a whole day devoted to Xamarin at the DevReach conference. So let me drop a link to it. I'll drop it in our chat here, Luis, and maybe you can pass it on to the amazing folks watching us on Twitch. But yeah, on next week, let me get the specific day, October 21st. It's a whole Xamarin day at Teleric's DevReach conference. So I guess first of all, if you've never heard of Telerik, they make amazing UI controls. We've used Sync Fusion for our charts in this app, but Telerik also makes amazing UI controls for Xamarin as error forms. So use them, support them. They're one of the biggest contributors to the Xamarin community. And they host a yearly conference. Usually it's in Bulgaria, but this year it's virtual, so we can all attend it for free. Nice. And yeah, I'll be speaking. It's about 8 a.m. for me Wednesday morning. I forget when the conference kicks off. I'm the last one of the day speaking at 8, but it's all Xamarin all day, and highly encourage everybody to check it out. If nothing else, just turn it on in the background. Listen in, see all the sneak peeks of cool things coming down the pike.
Nice. Let me see what else we have also from the dotnetdo community. I believe we have an event next week, right? Let me double check that date for you guys. So yeah, next week, October 21st, we're gonna be having a talk about, it's basically the second take on the talk we had about Solid, which was led by Andres Pineda, and now we're having a second take led by Claudio Sanchez. This talk is gonna be in Spanish, and basically we're gonna see a bit more about Solid and how we can implement it in .NET and what patterns we could use and anti-patterns you should observe and employ. So yeah, it will be an interesting event, and I hope you guys join us on October 21st. And let me see, we have another link here for the Xamarin section of the DevReach. I'll put in it in the chat.
Yeah, so if you want to, so I should say, DevReach is doing really awesome, we'll say, just days. So like there's Monday is all Blazor, Wednesday is all Xamarin, and like a sneak peek at Maui. So David Ortnow and myself will be chatting about Maui a little bit. Or if you're into React or Angular, they've got days devoted to those. So yeah, this link is the Xamarin specific day, which is this Wednesday. So set your alarm clock because it's going on in Europe. Yeah. Or it's in Europe time. But
it's gonna be Angel's payback time for us because remember, Angel is always hosting our thing, and he's in Europe. He's always like in the AM, so now it's our time to be in the AM.
Yeah.
So I think we can end it up here. Wait, let's just give them a sneak peek of what we're gonna be talking about next Friday, what we're gonna be doing, and what can we look forward to, Brandon, next Friday.
Yeah, we'll be basically continuing on where we're leaving off today. I'm going to play around with some things, now that we've talked about how we can shape this UI, but there's still so much to do. We were very focused on just the chart today. Like how many days are we going to show? How do we smooth out the graph? But there's even things like the header above it. So what do we show there? We have that mocked up in what do you call that, Luis? Adobe XD. So we have it mocked up, but I take the mockups with a grain of salt, and not saying that the mockup's bad, because that's what we want. But sometimes when you put it in the app and you can actually hold the phone in your hand and look at it, and you're like, you know what? We need to tweak this. So, we'll continue playing around with the chart. We'll start working on the header. We'll have to add all that logic into the view model. And so, there's still tons of work to be done. And I don't think we're going to come anywhere close to finishing that. But if we do, eventually we got to get working on this about page as well.
Definitely. And even we also have the other feature, which is like doing the favorite in the repository list.
I forgot about the favorites.
Yeah.
So much.
Wow. Yeah, we have a ton of work to do, but we should
probably add another stream.
Yeah. We should probably do like one day just focus on design decisions, and then the other day we focus on coding.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, because you guys saw like talking about like making the decisions and going through all of this takes time as well. And it's a certain type of work that sometimes, even if you're working, goes unnoticed, and you have to make sure to keep that in mind, that the time you take to analyze and to design and mock up and organize your ideas, it's actually also time you're using from your work, right? So, and it's, I would say, the most important, because if you don't analyze and you just implement something, you're gonna have to refactor.
Well, and that's also why, if your boss or your company measures your productivity based on line of code count, they're wrong.
Yeah.
Because writing code is only part of the job, and I would almost argue it's probably the smallest part of the job, because we have to make all these design decisions, architect decisions, we have to review code, we have to go through sprint planning, and so maybe 20% of the job is actually writing code. So hopefully nobody out there is working a job where their bonus depends on line of code count. I mean, maybe you like that, but that's a sign for me to either change things if you have the power to change things, or start looking for a new job, somewhere that understands software a little better.
And we're gonna leave this stream today with this last joke. Well, it might be serious. He was saying, you guys should leave your jobs, move to your parent garage, and work on this app full time. Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg did that, or so I was told, right? So we could do that.
We just need a sponsor.
And we could retire in 2 years, 3 years. So thank you everybody for coming out and spending the time with us, and I hope you guys have a nice rest of your Friday and of the weekend, and see you next week. Bye.